Hello, scholars. This is Dr. David Childs. I am so grateful to have you in class. Racism and Sexism in the Educational Institutions. This is our first lecture, EDU 316. Sometime I'll start off with something somewhat humorous. I'm always scouring the internet looking for something to make me smile or make you smile. This cartoon is interesting because they're always saying that the young generation are slackers. But anyway, I don't agree with that concept. But it says, wow, that sounds rigorous. What are the prerequisites for living in my mom's basement? So there is the old passage I used to like that said, America loves an underachiever. I think Bart Simpson used to say that. But anyway, just something to make you chuckle. It's not related to anything. But this is kind of related. How you think college works. I look forward to learning from the professor's many years of experience in the field. He will probably impart unique insights that I could never get by simply reading a book. How college actually works. Read the book. Discuss it amongst yourselves. If you have any questions, talk to your TA. And so that's kind of funny. This class is not like that. Although I will say the online format is not for everybody. I will just be very candid. I prefer personally in-person classes, even with my teaching. I would prefer to teach in person and also take classes in person. But nevertheless, with the time constraints we have and the demands of the 21st century, it behooves us all often to take an online class. So we're going to make the best of this and really get some good experience from this. I've taught online classes before, but primarily I teach brick and mortar. I teach in person at Northern Kentucky University. But welcome aboard to our first lecture. This class will be somewhat hands-on. If you have questions, I will be answering them directly. I won't refer you to a TA. However, with the lecture, unfortunately, it's difficult to ask questions, but I would try to provide a format where if you have questions, you could send them in. You could even email them, but there will be some space online to ask questions. Okay. This is from chapter 1. We're going to start this first lecture. This is going to be the format. Every module will have primarily 2 lectures, 2 chapter lectures, and it will help you on the weekly quizzes. The weekly quizzes combine 2 chapters, and they'll be relatively short. They'll be straightforward. I really try to avoid trick questions. I just want you to do the readings and try to understand the concepts. So keep that in mind. All of the lectures will come from Is Everyone Really Equal? In fact, that's our primary text in this class. Is everyone really equal? With this being a 7-week sprint course, we don't have the adequate time to go in depth with both books. So therefore, Courageous Conversations About Race will be a supplementary text. There'll be some homework surrounding that text, so you want to get that text. But primarily, the concepts and ideas will come out of Is Everyone Really Equal? So keep that in mind. How to engage constructively in courses that take a critical social justice approach. And that's what we'll be talking about. It's important that you approach a class like this with the right mindset. With the right, I guess I would use the word attitude. And I'll say more about that. Also, let me just add most of the prompts, the writing responses. When I say chapter 1, writing response, chapter 2, writing response, I am referring to Senso and D'Angelo. This text, Is Everyone Really Equal? And if I want you to do a writing prompt from the Singleton text, Courageous Conversations About Race, I will indicate that. I will say Singleton in the instructions. Okay. Oh, that's 1 and 2. Okay. Let me do something, and then we'll go to guideline 3. Guideline 1 is strive for intellectual humility. I forgot to say that. That's on page 6. Okay. In guideline 2, everyone has an opinion. Opinions are not the same as informed knowledge. And that's why I was saying with my point here at the bottom, opinions is not the same as informed knowledge. So keep that in mind. Then we go to guideline 3. Let go of anecdotal evidence and instead examine patterns. Okay, what is anecdotal evidence? Evidence drawn from rumor or only personal experience. And therefore, anecdotal evidence is artificial, limited to interpretation, and not generalizable. Okay, so we do it all the time, even in the college setting. We take our personal experience or our friend's experience, and we use that as a basis to support our claim. Well, in an intellectual climate, that is not sufficient. Okay, I hope you understand me. Like, for example, this is a crude example, but I don't know, I just remember this. In college, we had what we thought was the 15-minute rule. I've been at several universities. I'm a professional nerd. I have more degrees than I care to mention. But I've been to a number of universities getting various degrees. And each one I went to, they had the urban legend, it is an urban legend, that there's a 15-minute rule. If the professor is 15 minutes late, sometimes it varies. Some people say 20, some people say 30, but if the professor is late for 15 minutes, then it's in the student handbook or it's in the university policy that the students can leave if they want. Well, there's no such thing as that. That does not exist. There may be some universities that have that, but every one I've gone to, there's people have said as if they've read it somewhere. I know for a fact if the professor is 15 minutes late, then we get to leave. That's anecdotal evidence. And then they will say, my friend said it happened at his university and he got to leave. No, in order to actually prove that that's true, you would have to go get the student handbook and or university policy that's documented and researched and bring that to the classroom and show everybody. Saying that my friend experienced at his college is not sufficient evidence. Okay, so I hope you understand what I'm saying. We're taught how social inequality works. Most of the evidence we rely on to understand issues of social justice is anecdotal. In college, in this class, the goal is to expand our ability to make sense of everyday events, issues, and incidences. We are developing the ability to apply sense-making framework to something we currently make sense of using another framework. In other words, usually we use anecdotal evidence to talk about race, to talk about class. You know, I know the stereotype that black girls are mean, that African Americans are mean, African American will mean. And I'm married to an African American woman. There's a stereotype out there that black girls are mean and that, you know, if you have to be careful and walk on eggshells when you're around them, and they'll cut you, they'll fight you, they'll curse you out. And people will say, well, I work with some black girls and they're mean. I'm the only one. I experienced reverse racism at work and they're mean. Every time I go to them, I can't say anything to them. Well, that's one isolated incident. Anecdotal evidence. Okay? Of course, it's preposterous because my wife is sweet as pie. Never heard a fly. My mom is really sweet. She's a church lady. Never heard a fly. So it's the stereotype. And then on television, it's perpetuated because that's what sells. They will take that caricature and show the mean black woman. And so therefore, you go to work and say, oh, these black girls are mean. See, all black girls are mean. Anecdotal evidence, but research needs to be done. Thank you. So let's go forward. Focusing on exceptions. When we focus on exceptions, like for example, use another example of race. This class is about racism. People will say African Americans have an unfair advantage. There's no discrimination out there. Look at Oprah. She's a multimillionaire. If Oprah can do it, anybody can do it. If Obama can do it, anybody can do it. That's an exception. That ignores all of the inequalities of the children that did not have the same opportunities they had. especially Obama. He was a millionaire even when he went into the presidency. So when we focus on exception and unanalyzed personal experiences, it prevents us from seeing the overall picture of societal patterns. While there are people from oppressed groups that occasionally rise to the top, there is still historical, measurable, and predictable evidence that shows this is a rare occasion. So looking at this quote here, in terms of quota, first of all, it's misinformed because hiring quotas are actually illegal. They've been deemed illegal. All evidence demonstrates that people of color are discriminated against in hiring. People, employers, even myself, as an African American person, look at me. I've been looked at, and people assume that I'm a criminal because I'm African American. They don't trust me. It happens to me every single day. People are afraid of me, and that happens in hiring. The story rests on an embedded racist assumption that the only reason a person of color could have been hired over the cousin is because of a quota. That's racist. It's a racist idea. Not because the person of color was more qualified. They couldn't possibly be qualified to black or equally qualified, but brought a needed perspective that the cousin did not. That couldn't be the case. They had to have an unfair advantage. We may use personal stories to prove that structural oppression doesn't exist or even reverse direction, such as this story. Guideline 4, use your reactions as entry points for gaining deeper self-knowledge. So you notice these guidelines are to help you, okay, and me, even myself. I don't know all because I'm a professor, but I approach this class too to learn. So each time I teach this class, I learn something. Use your reactions as entry points for gaining deeper self-knowledge. So as you read these these passages, what is your reaction? How do you respond when you see it? Do you respond with anger? Do you respond with frustration? Look at your reaction and just get a sense of how you feel about it, okay? What about my life in relation to my race, class, gender might make it difficult for me to see or validate this new perspective? So when you see the various protests or you see somebody crying injustice, does your race or your social class or your gender stop you from fully understanding that person? Fully trying to understand? Social justice content can trigger strong reactions, and it will in this class. The collective eye rolling, like here we go, people complaining, wanting special rights, claiming victim status. You have to suspend those ideas, just so you can get an understanding of the material. This will evoke strong reactions, this class will. But these reactions can be constructive if we use them as entry points to deep self-awareness. There's nothing wrong with growing. You don't have to rigorously hold on to your belief that you already know everything and that there's nothing for me to learn. You might as well open up so you can learn this material. And again, it's not indoctrination, it's a class, rather than as an exit point from further engagement. So if we use them as an entry point to deeper self-awareness as opposed to an exit point from further engagement, that'll be more effective. Okay, so to grow. How does considering the course content or the author's analysis challenge or expand the way I see the world? How can it help us grow? Expand our worldview. Expand our concept of folks different from us, from Hispanics. How does it expand our concept of women? How does it expand our concept of African Americans or folks from the Middle East? Think about how this class can help you grow in those areas. There's a video I want you to watch at this point. This is not a discussion post. Many times I'll just show you a video for reflection. It's relatively short. You may have seen it already. It's the video about a race, and some people get certain privileges than others. If someone doesn't understand privilege, show them this. That's the name of the video. And I'll provide, you'll see links where you can click on the videos on Canvas. After you watch the video or as you watch it, think about these questions as we move forward in the course. In what ways is our lives like the race in the video? How does this help us understand our own privilege? And lastly, just thinking about positionality. Positionality is our perspectives are based on our place in society. You can look at page 15 and 16. It goes into more detail. The perspective you take, where you were born. And we're doing your cultural autobiography is a short assignment I'm going to have you do this week if you haven't already started that. It causes us to look at how our upbringing, our social class, our race, our gender, all impacts how we are successful in the world. And it's kind of a no-brainer. If you grew up in a single-parent household, you grew up with your mom, no dad in the picture, one income, and your mom had to have 2 or 3 restaurant jobs just to make ends meet, that's going to affect your exposure to your access. Now, you still can be successful, but it's going to be more difficult socioeconomically versus, let's say, a 2-parent household where the dad's a lawyer, like the Cosby Show. The dad's a lawyer and the mother's a doctor, and you come from a 6-figure household, and both of your parents have college degrees, one's a professor or what have you. That's going to influence your access in life and what you have access to. Did you have books in the home? Or were you a first-generation college student? All those factors are going to determine where you end up in life. Are you a woman? Have you experienced the type of experience, gender discrimination, sexism that you've experienced will affect you? Your race. African Americans are going to struggle because people have certain preconceived notions about them, and it's real. So I do want to convince you of that it's real. I don't want any of the students that leave this class to hold on to the mindset that people of color are just complaining. They want special rights. You should put yourself in their shoes first before you start judging. People see social justice classes as more biased and less objective. I'm here to tell you this is well-researched stuff, quantitative and qualitative. There are scientists that do studies on biology and race. There are social sciences that do studies on the effect, including myself. I'm a researcher. We do real, legitimate scientific work, quantitative studies on the effects of race and, for example, special education. One of my colleagues did some research on how there's an overrepresentation of African Americans in special ed classes. Some of them aren't even tested, and they're automatically placed in special education classes based on their color. In fact, that happened to me. Here I am, a college professor, and I was placed in special education classes, lower level classes. I took myself out. I knew enough to do that, based on my color. There's data to support that. So I want you to understand, take a class like this more serious. This is a whole body of research. A lot of people say, oh, in those women's studies classes, in those race classes, racism classes, multicultural education, they sit around holding hands and complaining and have their safe spaces. That's ignorance, and that's a misunderstanding of what goes on. So I want you to be open-minded. And lastly, we're going to talk about social construction of knowledge. This is really one of the bases of this class. Is by socially constructed, we mean that all knowledge understood by humans is framed by the ideologies, language, beliefs, and customs of human society. So even the field of science is subjective, the study of which is known as the sociology of the scientific knowledge. For example, consider scientific research and how and when it is conducted, which subjects are funded, which are not. The moon's atmosphere, nuclear power, wind power, atmospheric pollution, or stem cells? Why do we spend money on some things and we don't? That's a values question. Who finances various types of research? Private corporations, nonprofits, or the government? Who is invested in the results of the research? Example, for-profit pharmaceutical companies, the military. So this all makes it very subjective. Or nonprofit organizations. How do these investments drive what is studied and how? How will the research findings be used? Who has the access to the benefits of the research? As you can see, these are not neutral questions. They're always political. They frame how knowledge is created and advanced and circulated. Because of this, knowledge is never value neutral. So I'm going to stop there. I've really went a lot longer than I desired. But this is the end of chapter 1. I hope you'll go back and listen to it and highlight certain things as you prepare for your quiz. Until next time, we will talk to you later.